Hi, I'm Esther.
And I'm Shaun.
I write about AI news here at Tech Target.
And I edit Esther's stories.
We're here to talk to tech experts about everything AI, from open and closed models to AI agents and who's ahead in the generative AI race.
And even the elusive AGI.
We've got it covered, right, Shaun?
Yep, we've got it covered.
Welcome to the Targeting AI podcast. Today's guest is Asha Saxena. She is the CEO of Women Leaders in Data and AI and the author of The AI Factor. She's also an author and keynote speaker and has been a CEO at other companies, including Oculus Corp and Future Technologies. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, as the founder of WLDA, what inspires you to create an organization specifically focused on women leaders in data and AI? And what would you say is WLDA's mission? How do you hope to help women?
That's a great question. During the pandemic, I was spending time on doing the research for my book. I've spent 30 years in the industry. Being a female leader generally is a lonely place, but you really don't think about it. You're going to work to make sure that you're adding value to the organization you work for. But when I was writing my book, The AI Factor, the chapter 4 was about ethical AI. And what really bothered me were the case studies after case studies I was finding that these algorithms have the power to exponentially enhance the bias. And that really bothered me. It bothered me because engineers like me, minorities, women, or people of color might be unseen by the data that's available. And we had this huge population that was spending time on building these models, but we didn't have enough data to educate these models appropriately. So that concern was something that I was thinking about, and I lined up talking to my son about it. And his whole thing was, like for every child, their parent is a superhero, and he looks at me and he says, "So what are you going to do about it?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know. I'm the only one person. What can I do about it?" And then I thought about it and called a few of my peers in the industry, the CIOs of Fortune 1000 companies, and I kind of spoke about that. And I said, what if we really create this community of thought leaders who come together and talk about it? We all, as leaders in Fortune 1000 companies, can actually start making an impact within our organization and make sure that we responsibly and ethically implement this practice of responsible AI. And so this journey really started from there of building the women leaders in data and AI. But as I was talking to men and women about this cause, and really our mission is to bring senior leaders together uh, to create a fair digital world with parity and equity, what I realized that actually men cared about it too. Men who were senior leaders cared about building a fair digital world with parity and equity. And so last 2 years, we've been within the organization thinking about how do we convert from women leaders to world leaders and bring everybody together for this cause of a good cause of leaving a legacy behind. As engineers and as leaders in tech, we are in a very unique place today that we can truly create an impact. We can leave, we are making history. So how do we responsibly make sure that we leave this world a better place together? And it's always a journey starts from me. I do the right thing, then my community, my company, my employees, my teams are doing the right thing. And then it goes to the world. What are we leaving behind in the world? In every single organization, uh, they're either creating a product or they're creating services. Are we doing it consciously that our consumer, our buyers of these products, are benefited from? If it's a consumer product goods, if it's a healthcare organization, if it's a higher ed education organization, we truly are conscious about the data we're engaged with. And so that was the motivation. I wake up every day, I tell you that I'm inspired and grateful that I have this purpose. And I feel like we, the senior leaders in this world today want to do the right thing, and so WILDA, we call it WILDA, WLDA, stands for bringing the thought leaders together to make an impact and leave a legacy behind.
Okay, thanks for that. So you've built and sold three successful tech companies over your 3-year career. So what important lessons from those experiences have shaped your approach to AI leadership? Also, how has being a woman leader shaped your own experience?
That's a great question. uh, Being an entrepreneur makes you resilient. It makes you, see the world in a different place, because you get, there are like 99 doors that close on your face, and you still have to go through and wait for that one door that will open for you. And as an entrepreneur, I feel that I learned to pursue my passion in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do if I wasn't an entrepreneur. The passion drives you when you're an entrepreneur, because it's not an easy to be an entrepreneur. And every single business I started, there were probably 100 hurdles before I could see a win. So being an entrepreneur, I think it was a privilege and a blessing for me to be able to create products and services for the industry that was benefiting from the product and services, but also defined me as a human being. It defined me as a professional. And I think that has a direct implication of what I'm doing today. I took my career from being an entrepreneur. I've been teaching at Columbia University now for 18 years. I was a CEO coach, worked with private equity firms, where I was coaching about 15 CEOs on building high growth companies for an exit, with my experience of what I can bring to the table for these CEOs and make sure that they are building high growth companies. And what I realized, the common thread is having technology as an enabler. So when I am talking to large organization about AI strategy now, and in my books when I write about AI strategy, digital human, I emphasize on using technology as an enabler for growth. It's really using it as a strategic asset. A lot of times you think about technology as a cost center. So changing the perspective and saying, how do I really use technology as an enabler for growth, and using it in a way that we can create adoption within our organization. It's a change of culture when you think about any technology. And AI is such a powerful technology. We need to not go alone. We need to make sure that our organization, our employees, our teams are coming together, because a lot of times people are fearful of AI. They worry about using AI and thinking, oh my God, my job will be gone. So if you educate your employees to reskill, upskill, they will learn how to use technology like AI, and use this powerful tool to enhance what they do, become more creator, developer, designer, and be more innovative. So I think there's a huge opportunity right now, that I see personally, and I think there's a lot of advantage in industry and professionals to see that.
You mentioned how you had some use cases that came up as you were writing your book. I wonder if you can expand a little bit about those use cases. And then you mentioned perhaps moving into world leaders versus women leaders. And I almost wonder if you're worried that that might exclude kind of like that. I guess the point is to make sure that women are included, even though there are men allies, but like making it too generic, would that miss the point?
Yeah. So the second question, I think, is an important question, is women and world, the transition and why, and how do we make sure that we stay on focus for making sure that we don't miss out on having women on the seat, women at the table. So during the journey of our 5 years in this organization, what I realized, that there were some amazing men I met who cared about this truly, but they didn't feel that they were part of the mission because they were not the members. They were not represented in the name. Even though they wanted to contribute, they became the sideline as a support staff, not really actively participating in creating this change. This change is something which is a massive change. We've been fighting over having a seat at the table for decades. We've had some amazing women who've done such incredible job in being the voice of women leaders. And what I saw the struggle was that there are so very few women leaders that we couldn't do it alone. We cannot do it alone. We need the support of all. And I think that's why the name world leaders coming together becomes really important. And our mission has never really changed because we care about the women leaders having a seat. So if you see at every single what we do is, it's bringing everybody together and making sure that our women are seen. So we have AI talk show. We do a LinkedIn Live where we showcase our women leaders. We do our virtual talks and our in-person events. We make sure that we are always having women on the stage. When we are partnering with New York Stock Exchange and their board search, we partner with them to make sure that there is enough women in the board search. So our effort is to be the spokesperson, the advocate for this mission. And even though the name says world, our bold statement is that we need everyone to champion this cause. It cannot be just women championing for women. It has to be the world coming together for a good cause. And this is an important, super important timeline right now. We cannot miss this timeline because these algorithms are going to feed on the data we provide. And I always say that, listen, bias in the world, it's hard to change. But the bias in the data, if we are conscious, we can actually make the change. We can catch it from the very beginning of designing any product and look and curate the data so the bias is caught early on so it doesn't reflect the output. And so I think that's the critical piece that we cannot forget about.
So your book, what is one of the thing about AI that many businesses using AI to grow their businesses miss? And then how have the practical applications of AI evolved, would you say, since you published the AI Factor?
When I published AI Factor, it was before ChatGPT came out. I was writing my book during the pandemic. And the reason I was writing the book at that time, because I saw such a huge amount of data on digital my whole gut was that the models are just going to get stronger and stronger with so much data available for these models to consume and be able to provide the output. So the book really is about using the framework effectively to build your models and execute on these models. So the framework doesn't change. So how the best practices remains the same of how you build these application and use this application for your business growth. And that's what the book is about. So the frameworks are the framework which would stay, doesn't matter what the technology and how the technology change. It's the best practice of executing a technology like AI. And then also the book explains the business leaders of how and why you should be using a technology like AI and what terminology you should be using when you're talking to tech. And it teaches the tech leaders to use business technology, business vocabulary, and business frameworks to execute on the right outcome. So it really is the book talks more about the strategy and framework irrespective of the evolution of the technology. So that stays the same. What has changed is the awareness of the power of these models. We saw ChatGPT be able to talk to us, use natural language processing to process the vast amount of data to find the results and talk in human language like never before. And I think that was a fascination that public became fascinated with ChatGPT, that it can talk to you and help you as your tutor or as your content writer or your therapist now. But the evolution every 3 months, you see these technologies are becoming smarter, better. There was a lot of hallucination problem. They're fixing that. There was not enough references. They're fixing that. So as you evolve with this technology, you find more new problems and you find new solution. So I think what the industry is seeing is a very rapidly fast growing technology that is changing constantly. And people are now figuring out what use cases would be best for their organization. And in my work with companies, I see people using quick wins. Sure, what is something that I can quickly win with this technology, and what is my long-term gain? And that's what I personally work with organization as a strategist, AI strategist, is help define the roadmap to create the quick wins and create the long-term strategy of using this AI technology and creating that transformation.
Okay, so diversity or lack thereof is a big issue with AI technology, specifically tech in general, but also AI. So, what specific barriers do women face in advancing the leadership positions in AI and data fields?
So I'll divide that question into two parts. One is the application, and then second is the leadership. So in applications, when you're building application, and some of the use cases which you asked me earlier was a great example. That was actually an older example which I found when I was talking about in my book. Is Microsoft came out with a Twitter teenage chatbot. It was a conversational chatbot in 2016 when we had election times. And there was a lot of conversation about the wall, that we're going to build a wall between Mexico and US. There was a lot of negative conversation about, you know, the immigrants. And the chatbot, the Twitter chatbot, the 19-year-old girl, which was the experiment Microsoft was doing, it was called Tay, became very bitter very quickly. So what she was doing was she was listening to all the Twitter media, all the chatter, and exponentially enhancing the feeling of what was the feeling around she was hearing. And so Microsoft had to bring that down. And that shows that a model can amplify sentiments. Now, fast forward a year and a half back in October, UN does General Assembly in New York. And UN Women had this beautiful keynote where they actually showed on Google, if you type in senior leaders, it was 99% men showed up on that page and only 1% women. In actuality, there's 30% women leaders in the world. So what did the model do? It amplified the bias. And so the learning is that if you don't fix the bias in the data early on, the model will amplify it. So when you talk about women and how women are represented in AI, the data has to show that you have to go out and bring the data to create the right output. We had a Wilder member who was telling us a story. Pharmaceutical company, one of their analysts, who was a women analyst, said, "You know what? I have to do this drug discovery for a heart disease, and I don't have enough female data." So she actually didn't do the research until she actually got the female data. The results were different. And so in the applications, that's the big piece which is missing, is that if you don't curate the data set to include diversity, the amplification of bias will be harmful. In the leadership, there's not enough women in the leadership role. And that was our challenge as Wilda, that we couldn't really find enough senior leader who could become the champion for women leaders. So we had to actually change the brand and say we are world leaders because we want to be inclusive, because we want men who are compassionate, who care, who wants to do the right thing, to join the organization to create the space and say we do want women at the table to build this world, the new world, appropriately. So to me, I think it's application and leadership problem. And I think we as conscious leaders, conscious society, need to do the right thing. And we cannot dismiss that having one community will not give you the right result. Diversity is the core of innovation and excellence. We need to have diverse thought, diverse mindset, diversity in all aspects to be able to be innovative and create excellence.
Okay, quick follow up. Do you have any idea from the actual data what what's the percentage of women in AI leadership, engineering, stuff like that, upper management?
So we actually did a study with KPMG last year on women leadership, and we saw that most of the technical skills, the women leadership showed anywhere between 10 to 30%. So AI leadership, tech leadership, senior roles ranged between 10 to 30%. So when you make it generic, it's 30%. When you start analyzing and narrowing it down to tech and ML engineers, it starts coming down. And the only way to increase that number is to consciously promote, include, and amplify these voices.
Okay, thanks.
So, through WILDA, what initiatives have proven most effective in creating pathways for women in AI leadership?
So, the most important thing is our shift from just being women to world leaders. We need to create tables where we bring men and women together so they can experience in not in a formal setting. So let's say you're working for a large organization, you're so consumed with your work that you are working with the leaders who you work with consistently. So if you're working with all men, you don't have time to figure out where the woman is the woman qualifies. It's hard and it's understandable. But what Wilda, a place like Wilda is, where you can actually bring men and women who are peers, who are equal, and you see and hear them in a way that you don't get to hear at work. So, the very first thing I would say is our mastermind circles. It's the most powerful offering WLDA provides is to bring peer to peer. So we have a CEO council where we have CEOs of mid cap companies who come together, women and men, as equals, as partners. And that's your resource to be able to see, experience, and appreciate very diverse mindset. And they're equal, they are coming from strength together and help each other. And now they can take each other to the next level. Now if there's a man and a woman at the same table and they get an opportunity, they can recommend because they know that that CEO is available. The CIO group meets together, and that one CIO can now start recommending a woman who's good, strong leader. So having access, I think what Wilda provides is access for women and men to come together, understand skills, build relationship, and start recommending and promoting each other, helping each other to climb the ladder together based upon their skills.
Okay, so based on your experience with the big companies, the Fortune 1000s, what's the biggest ethical challenge organizations face when putting AI systems into place? So, and has the agentic AI come into that, and has that made that challenge a bigger challenge, or less, or somewhere in between?
The biggest challenge is that not enough data. So the data is available, which data contains the bias because that's what is available in the world. So Fortune 1000 companies, the biggest challenge is they don't have enough data for the diverse data set. So that's one challenge. The second challenge is that because you have such pressure of delivery, to be able to have best practices or frameworks that you can actually implement to be able to rectify problems like that. I do see AI as a solution. If AI used properly, AI can detect bias, you can rectify bias, you can use frameworks to implement from the very beginning. The design of the system, not at the later stage when you catch it. During the design of the system, you can actually start implementing the right processes to catch, detect, and be able to create responsible AI. It's about transparency. It's about fairness. It's about having, no bias. I mean, you're going to have bias, but how can you reduce the bias? So you have organization now have an opportunity to create the responsible AI practices, ethical practices, because we have such a strong tool. AI, AI agents, and AI technology is helping organization now to be more ethical and more fair, more transparent, be more responsible. It's a great time. It's a great time for organization to take the plunge into doing the right things. And that's why I feel like we're in such a great time right now to be able, we are on the early years. We'll remember, how we remember when, the personal computer came in and then the telephone era happened. We're going to remember this time. We are in a time that we're going to look back and say, do you remember when ChatGPT came out and we were talking about responsible AI? So we are really creating history, and it's such a great, I'm so blessed, I feel, that I'm still around to experience this era and be able to make an impact. And that's why I'm so passionate about it right now. We all need to have our voices heard, and especially as engineers. We used to sit in the back office and code all day long, and we were just building systems. Now we're actually in the front line, creating an impact by using this AI technology in a way that we've never used before.
Okay, so not to get too political, and I have to ask this question. I mean, all this innovation and progress in AI technology is happening. At the same time, you've seen the government, at least in the U.S., under the Trump administration, with a full-scale assault on DEI. And so they're basically saying it's either it's not important or you don't need special organizations or requirements to achieve DEI. So, what's your view on all that stuff?
I am surprised about this conversation that came up. So uh, my thought on this is that if you put everybody who looks the same, thinks the same, and has no idea about diversity, so let's think about it. If we all are cooks who are making American food and have no idea of what Mexican food tastes or how it is cooked, we'll have no idea how to innovate our own recipes, even to make an interesting recipe that is innovative and interesting, and maybe we be able to grow and get a lot more money for this unique dish. We need to go out and taste different food to figure out what flavors will make my dish more interesting. But if we all are, that's all we know is meat and potatoes, and we have no flavor of anything else, we'll never make an interesting dish ever. Why do you think New York is called, the capital of the world? Because we have diversity in New York. Why are we so interesting? Because people want to come to New York because they experience the world here. So to me, it confuses me when people say we don't need DEI requirement. Because if I don't say it is required to bring a Chinese cook, Mexican cook, or if I don't make that a requirement, how are we going to bring diversity into the room? It just confuses me that the leadership in America could dismiss something which is so critical to who we are and not pay attention. This is like the ABCD of innovation. Isn't it 101? Innovation 101 would be, the first chapter would be have diversity. And if you don't have it, mandate it. Because if we don't ever have a Chinese cook in the room, then you have to mandate, bring a Chinese cook. How can you dismiss that? So I'm confused, to say the least.
Okay, thanks.
That's fair. So, how can organizations balance AI-driven efficiency while maintaining the human touch? And then, how can vendors address some biases in AI?
You know, when you talk about the human touch, it's so important. People talk about, oh, I'm going to lose my job, or AI is going to do everything for us. Book our tickets and you know pick the song we like or help shop for us. It's true, but if we don't have humans who give the problem we need to solve, AI is not solving the problem that humans need. So what is AI doing right now? It's solving the problem we have. If I'm a student and I want to get ready for my exam, AI will help me get ready for my exam. Now, how do I use it? I would say that as a professor, I say to my students, the questions you ask the AI will give you the answer accordingly. So, are you creative enough to understand what problem you're solving with AI? And it is such a great time for all of us to become our own little entrepreneurs because we are solving problems. Which problem do you want to solve, and how interesting is your problem to solve, is the question. And so humans are not going anywhere. Humans are completely in the loop, and humans are the one who are touching and creating and directing this AI. So my call to the audience is, it is such a great time for you to be more creative. Think outside the box and see what you can do, and become better at what you do, become more proficient. As a student, you should learn the concepts better now, because you don't have an excuse anymore not to know the subject deeply, because you have a personal tutor who can teach you. The way you ask and go deeper into the subject is on you, not to just get an answer. Everyone is going to get the answer. If three of us sit on a test, we all might get the answer, but how we get to the answer is the question that will differentiate you from me, and making sure who will succeed in the future.
Okay, so segue into this question. So, what are the emerging AI applications that are you most excited about? I mean, whether from a world leader perspective or a women leader, and you've been there for the evolution of data analytics over the decades. So that's evolved to modern visualization and all these analytics products. But is AI evolving in the same way as is that technology, or faster,
Oh
or
my God, so much faster. AI is evolving faster than I've ever seen any other technology evolve. And of course, cell phone was great, and personal computers were great, and the databases and the big data and the web, but nothing like AI. I mean, AI is changing the way we run and operate our lives. I mean, the AI has changed how the students go to school and study, and there was no change management required there. And our kids suddenly came home and said, we're using ChatGPT to find the answer. So it's changing. To answer your question, it has nothing like this has happened before. It is time for each one of us take this opportunity and really take advantage of this opportunity for your own personal performance and for your organization's performance. Now, what I'm excited about the personalization, the amount of personalization we're going to see with this technology like AI. Personalization of how we learn as an individual, as a student, to how we teach as a professor, to how I take care of my health. I mean, you're seeing that in some shape or form already, but it's only going to enhance. I mean, I'm seeing the wellness organization popping up left and right. Uh, how you take care of yourself medically, health wise, your sleep, your wellness, a lot more focus on wellness than preventive care, than going out and curing your diseases. So I think I'm so excited about this whole personalized. I mean, of course, being a woman, the personalized makeup now, the skincare products, the how you dress, how you operate and consume, what you read. I mean, I can go on and on personalization. So I'm really excited about the personalization technology application of AI, which I think is really interesting. The AI agents are going to help. Yes, that's the technology which is interesting, because now we are not going to be just workers who are working in the offices. We're going to have our digital co-workers. I just finished my third book called The Digital Human Advantage, that's coming out March next year. And I was so fascinated by this digital agent, AI agents, because they're going to be our co-workers. Imagine the workforce where you will have Amy and Esther, but Amy is a digital agent, where Esther is working, sitting with you and having real conversation like Amy is. So we're going to have, Amy or Joe, who's our HR recruiters who are onboarding, to real managers, humans who are actually engaging with our digital staff, and human who are our staff. And how would that workplace look like? How would that workplace look like? And so that my book is all about that, is how the world is going to change with having digital human in our workplace.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Asha. We really appreciate your time. So, our final question is, what advice would you give to young women interested in pursuing careers in AI and data science? How do you personally stay current with the rapid evolving AI landscape?
So I would say that first of all, you are in an era which is lifelong learning. So I don't care what age you are, what profession you come from, there's no excuse of not learning. So you have to consume as much information as you can every day. If it's 10 minutes, it's 15 minutes, learn new technology, learn about AI, play with the AI tools and see how you can apply in your job. People who know how to use AI will succeed in their profession compared to people who don't know how to use AI. So even if it's a small step, even if you use ChatGPT to create your emails or automate your emails or find out there is a tool like Superhuman that can help you with your email management, or you are using Canva to create your graphics, or you're using any of the technologies to help you become a better professional. So no matter what, you don't have to be a math and science geek to be in AI. You can be artist and still be using AI, or you could be a journalist and still be using AI, or you could be a developer and you still have to use AI. You can write code with AI. So I would say the biggest and the best advice I can give to the women who are listening, anybody who's listening, become a lifelong learner. You have no excuse not to be a lifelong learner. Be curious and inquisitive, ask good questions. And lastly, invest in yourself. Make sure you stand out. Make sure you be honest to the work you do. And always, always, always give more than you take. So when you go to work, be a really, really good employee. If you're working with your peers, make sure that you take care of your peers and do the right thing when no one's watching. Because now you have a superpower like AI that can help you succeed and excel in your job.
That is an awesome message, Asha. You're a great guest. Thanks for being with us. And where can people get a hold of you or learn about WLDA?
So LinkedIn is the best way. So find me on LinkedIn, Asha Saxena, or you can go on my website, ashasaxena.com. But LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. Send me a message, and I'm always happy to help. If there's anything I can do to help, I'll be very happy to talk about AI or talk about leadership or entrepreneurship. If you're a CEO, I can help get you some tips.
That's great. So, for our readers and our listeners and viewers, you can find us on Informa Tech Target's YouTube channel, Ion Tech, or in the news pages of Informa Tech Target. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Bye. To hear the full audio podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, TuneIn, Podbean, and other popular podcast platforms.